Okay, so today we're actually gonna go for a little bit of a different video. It's one of the areas that I personally struggle in. I'm a bit of an item hoarder, and I think this is something that applies to a lot of people. I've gone in the past into videos to explain a bit what kind of items are important, what should be an automatic sell for you, but eventually when you play the game for a long time, you're gonna run into a situation where you're completely loaded with items that might be just accessory or normal artifacts, and you have to start to get rid of things. And I obviously am suffering from the same issue as a lot of people out there. I'm looking at some of the items that I have that are upgraded in the past. I'm always like, you could probably use this in this scenario, maybe here, maybe there. And then what happens is that my items just completely overflow and I'm losing track of what I have because I have some of this just simply in storage and it gets real messy. So what we're going to do today is we're going to use me as an example of what you should sell at some point and what you should just basically get rid of eventually, and giving you a little bit of a pointer as well of what kind of items you should probably keep into the late game and what kind of items you should probably get rid of eventually. So that will help you to balance your own items out and make it a little bit easier than when you have a new champion that you need to equip to actually properly search and filter for items that would make sense, because you're only keeping stuff that is useful, at least you should. So with that being said, let's jump in and let's take a closer look of what exactly we can get rid of here, and upside obviously being that we're going to get quite a bit of silver for all of this. One of the problems that comes especially with new sets being added, recently for example we had now the Mercurial set being put in, is that initially when you're starting to get sets like this, what you're actually going to do is keep a lot of the items that are 5 stars as well, because you're just trying to complete sets and you're looking at potential champions where you can actually get that done. But as the game continues, you want to get rid of all of your 5-star items pretty quickly. There are a couple of exceptions. If you have a 5-star item, let's say that has a quad roll into speed, if it's a legendary, that is a bit of an exception. So these quad rolls, they can still be pretty useful. It can also be the case, of course, when you have, let's say, a crit rate item, you have 4 hits into crit rate, and you can use that item still to have a really nice bonus for the 100% crit rate, so that you can maybe wear a crit damage glove that otherwise you wouldn't be able to afford because you're not hitting 100%. So those legendary items that have 4 hits, I would still say that those are exceptions. But let's go into my account, for example, and let's just say we're going for rarity and we're going to filter for everything that is 5-star. And go all the way up to the top here and see what we're getting. And you can quickly tell that I have actually a lot of items that have been upgraded to 16, for example, that I held on to because they were useful in the past, and certain champions have then been replaced by a 6-star version as I progressed in the game, but I still kept them. And I just have to get rid of items because currently I'm completely maxed out in my storage, and at the same time already have another 200 items or so waiting in the game storage in the chest that I can't get. So when I go through these, I'm honestly just taking a look at some of them and decide on what exactly to do with them. In this case, I actually have a pretty nice hit in with 3 into accuracy. This is something that I for now could, for example, also try and upgrade to 16 and see if I get a quad hit in. The problem is that accuracy in itself is not really getting me that much on a single item that doesn't even have speed as a sub roll. So one of the things that you can do and should do in a lot of cases is just try and throw a rework in. I have 50 of these, so since I don't usually use the 5-star items anyways, throwing a couple of out there and see what I get doesn't really hurt me. So in this case, there's not really that I can do with this. As you can see, the only thing that I was able to get here is that it is still accuracy that I have the 3 hits in. I still don't have a speed set, or sorry, a speed substat on the item, so this is definitely going to be a sell. So this we're going to get rid of. When I look at the level 16 item, again, typically I would lean towards keeping them, but since I'm really running out of storage, I have to start to get rid of all the 5-star stuff that I have, unless it's a really, really good item and I might still be using it on a champion. Now obviously, if you're looking at some of the champions that you have in your lineup that you just started to upgrade, you have them at 60, you don't have them properly equipped yet, and you might only use them for certain stages in the Cursed City or maybe in the Doom Tower, let's say use them for faction wars, then you could still use a lot of those items to just throw them on the champions, so that you have them, you know, as like a little bit of a base level, so you can use them as a fill-in, but they won't be as strong, and then eventually if you really, really need them and you need them to be stronger, then you would have to upgrade them anyways. In this case, we're going to get rid of a lot of the stuff. The one exception that I'm going to make when it comes to the 5-star gear is that I'm actually going to keep my boots. So when we're talking about boots that have speed on them, then I'll keep them for now, simply because sometimes you will still end up in a situation where you want to get a certain set bonus and you can't just simply pull it off properly because you don't have speed boots that are useful in any way, shape or form. If, for example, the speed boots over here, they only had flat stats, then I would probably still sell them. But since I have a couple of decent hits in the percentage, substats, and also crit damage, I'll keep them for now. Eventually, they will most likely go too, but this is something that at least for the time being I'll keep. Quite a couple of the items here are actually kind of nice. They have decent rolls, but the stats are just not strong enough. In this case, again, we have 3 hits into crit rate. So this is one of the examples where I'm a little bit tempted to keep it. Now, it's a Fury set. I'm not really going to use it for anything else, but this is actually an item where with 21% into crit rate and a speed substat, I'll still keep it for now. I should probably just get rid of it, I'm going to be honest. But this might be something that I use for, let's say, a Faction Wars champion where I can't hit 100% crit rate if I don't use an item like this. I haven't rolled it to 16 yet. This is something I should actually upgrade to. Usually what I do when I think an item is worth upgrading to 16 is I upgrade it to 13 or 15, and then once that the next gear upgrade event comes around, then, you know, just like I dive in, look at all of the items that I have on 13 or 15, and I upgrade them accordingly and then rake the points in. So that's one of the things. Regeneration, so I keep this one for now, just for the crit rate. Again, it's a bit of an exception. I have a triple hit in there. I have a chance of getting a 4th hit in, or getting the hit into speed, as you can see. Speed as a subset is also present, so that could help. Even just a hit into crit damage would help there. It would most likely be a broken set. I don't think that I have a need for a proper Fury set anytime soon, but that's just what it is. Now, when we're talking about the regeneration gear, this is always quite nice, but even here, there's nothing that's really happening with it. Relentless for me is always a little bit different, to tell you the truth, because the problem with the Relentless gear is obviously only get it through tournaments. Now, you get quite a bit there, and I have a ton of Relentless gear. At the same time, I'm always reluctant to get rid of it before I actually went in and tried to at least go for a reroll, depending. But a lot of the stuff here, this defense glove, for example, not gonna use it. Now, what I could obviously do is try and re-roll it and see if I get maybe a really good crit rate glove out of it. It's highly unlikely though, so a lot of this stuff I'm still going to get rid of. In this case, I have 3 hits into crit rate, I have speed and I have crit damage, so this shield I'm actually going to keep, at least for the time being. The crit damage glove here is actually not too bad, so I'm going to keep that too. I would have loved to have at least a speed subset here, but I've also fully ascended it, so it's a decent amount of crit damage. Not going to end up on one of my S tier champions, but might be on a Relentless set for someone else. Still lots of speed boots here, and as I said before, I'm going to keep speed boots just on the off chance that I have to actually use them for something. This one has also been ascended nicely and has also on the ascension bonus speed. So for Relentless gear, I oftentimes make a little bit of an exception. Same for Savage, since Savage gear is actually something that you want to equip a lot of your champions with. This Mythical, for example, isn't really too bad. The 16s that I have are generally good. So all of the Savage stuff I'll keep for now, just because sometimes you end up in a situation where you want to have a full set and you're starting to run out of items a little bit. So it's very set dependent. When it comes to the stun gear on the other hand, all of these are eventually going to go now too. The only exception I would make here if I have really nice substats for them as well. Typically I try to hold on to the 16 stuff as much as I can. In this case, crit rates times 3, I'll probably keep that, but then again it's defense. Gonna get rid of this one as well. Here I have speed, and that's a little bit different, so 3 hits into speed, I'll keep that for now. That might actually be useful still, but the rest outside of speed is gonna go too. Now it really hurts me when I'm getting rid of the 16 stuff, because you obviously invested a lot of silver into it, but as I said before, I'm now at a point where I'm getting so much more gear in, and also from the new sets that are generally stronger, that it just makes sense to start finally getting rid of a lot of the stuff that's on 16. In this case, actually, even though it's on 16 and I have speed boots here, I'm going to get rid of them. I'm not going to use a provoke set. That's just not going to happen. Retaliation here, also not something that I'm going to use. Essentially, all that I'm looking for right now, stalwart boots, by the way, not going to use that either, I'm going to be honest. All that I'm looking for right now when I'm looking at these is to see if there are a couple of items where I have really good hits into the substats, and if that's not the case, then I'm just going to get rid of all of that. So that's one of the easier ones to go for. It might hurt a little bit to get rid of the level 16 stuff, but as I said, there's too many new sets coming in, there's too much gear that you need, and I've been holding on for these for so long, it honestly doesn't really make sense anymore. That's just the honest truth of it. Because, again, this is just something that eats up way too much of my space, and I need to take a closer look at, for example, the mercurial stuff that I'm getting, and also more stone skin, more protection gear that I have. So all of these things, it just makes more sense. The perception here, again, this is a good shield to actually have. I have another hit into speed, and I have 19% crit rate, so this is something I'm going to hold on to. Perception gear is always needed. It's actually insane how many of my champions have at least 1 or 2 full sets of perception gear, so keeping a hold of them kind of makes sense. When we're talking about lethal, I don't have that much lethal gear right now, so I'm still going to keep some here. This is kind of nice, even though it's crit rate, it still has 3 hits into crit damage and also attack. Has speed as a subset too, so I'm going to keep that. This one I'm going to get rid of as well. I'm probably going to keep my protection gear at least for now. I have some speed here too, I would have re-rolled that at least. Protection gear is always one of those things where I'm a little bit torn on what exactly to do with it or where to use it. And, well, in this case, we were talking about stone skin a little bit as well, so I'll probably keep this for now. I mean, we're already getting rid of 33 items at this point, so that's actually kind of useful. This one we can get rid of pretty easily. And then we come into stuff like Supersonic, so the newer sets, I would say. So some of the newer stuff that we have in there. And Supersonic was also initially something that I would actually latch onto for quite some time, simply because it was, you know, useful. But right now, even with pretty decent sub rolls and having speed in there as well, the 5-star just goes. If that would at least be a higher roll on speed, I would probably keep that. But in this case, not really needed. This one, I'll probably hold on to it just because it can get another hit in. Probably as well for this. Here we have low rolls once again. The mythical stuff I'll still keep. Over here, if I had more hits into speed, I would probably take it, but in this case, not really the case. Then we have like speed, so I'll keep the speed sets for now, the 5 stars, but the rest I'm going to get rid of because I'm starting to accumulate just so much supersonic and merciless gear and whatnot that it just doesn't make sense to do anything else here. In this case, I have a mythical shield that already has a mythical hit into speed, so I'm going to keep it and will upgrade it later. Same with this one, so both of these are kind of nice. The third one, of course, as well. They will be decided later if I'm going to get rid of them or not. If I roll more into speed, I'm going to keep them, but with a lot of this stuff, I'm going to wait for the next gear enhancement event and then decide on that. With this being gloves on Merciless, I'll still keep that too, even though it's just a 5-star. Again, still a little bit of a hoarder. If I had an account that is full on in some kind of like area where I just like whale it up completely, I would probably get rid of all of the 5-star without even looking at it. But as it is right now, I'll still keep some of the stuff. Sub rolls here aren't that crazy, but I might end up, well, with the crit rate I actually keep it. Honestly, this over here and this one, these two, I'll get rid of them. They don't really do anything for me. I could technically now try and get a reroll here and hope for another speed hit and then decent substats, but I'm going to keep that. Rebirth and Stonecleaver don't have a lot here, so I'll keep them at least for now. We'll talk about the mercurial stuff. There's also a lot that I can simply get rid of. The only reason why I would maybe keep it is because I would still be good for another reroll, but I'm not going to do that. This one, I could keep it just for the crit rate that I have as a substat. In this case, yeah, also not necessarily needed. These are all pretty meh, so I'll sell them. So that's already 44 items gone, and which is pretty neat. I still have a little bit too much 5-star gear, so I could look into more, but for now, we're actually not going to do that. And yeah, after that, so when you get rid of this, you can really start to decide a little bit, okay, what else do I want to get rid of? For example, a few things like offense. This is just like stuff. These are sets I'm just not going to use anymore. Same for life. This is always something that I could use as a bit of a broken set, and this is the only reason why I'm going to keep it. This is a fairly decent crit damage glove where you have a double hit into speed and you have 1 into crit rate as well. So those I'm going to keep. But outside of that, you can really just like start going down a little bit into areas of, okay, what kind of sets am I going to use here? Lifesteal is, for example, another one that I'm very unlikely to use. So I can immediately just like jump in and see what I'm going to get here. And honestly, I am probably never going to use a lifesteal set again. They were really useful at the beginning when you started the game and you could do a lot of stuff with it. The speed boots here I kind of like, but a full lifesteal set I am not going to use in a very... I cannot imagine any kind of area where right now I would need lifesteal on my main account. Now you could keep one set if you wanted. So let's say in this case we have crit damage, fully upgraded one, and we have as a subset speed. So I think this is going to be the only glove that I'm going to keep. All the other ones I will sell immediately. So that's another 4 items gone. When we're talking about the weapons here, I guess this one I could keep just on the off chance. Triple hit into speed, could keep the 2, so we're going to sell 1. The, yeah, no speed subset, not going to use those, can keep this. Just again on the off chance that at some point I'm going to use something like this. We have, with this is a pretty decent speed boot, so I'm going to keep that. The other 2 I'm just going to get rid of. I really need to just get some of these items out. I have a couple of days items, and it's a similar situation here. Days set I have never used in my life, so while you could still use a few of these items as broken sets, I'm just never gonna see myself going into a days set as a broken one over the alternatives that I have. So as much as it hurts me to get rid of 6-star gear that's upgraded to 16, I really need the space. This one I might keep because it's a little bit more decent, but again, generally speaking, you have to at some point just get through it. The one thing that's a little bit sad in the game right now is actually that there is no... This one I'll keep just to see if I had to get a triple hit into speed. The one thing that's a little bit sad is that for essentially 99% of the content you want to have a speed sub roll. It's just what it is. There are a couple of exceptions where you want to have a champion go slow, but outside of that, it's just not a thing. So here, by the way, again, we have a double hit into crit rate with a crit damage glove. That will keep. Having another speed subset here would have been nice. We don't have that. It is what it is. But over here, again, I'm never going to use a full days set. I have enough speed boots on 6-star that are in other sets that I will use. So I get rid of these 12 as well. That gives me another million. Cursed over here. I honestly don't even have to look at this. I will just to see if I have some triple hits, but I also never use the Cursed set. Cursed was kind of a thing when the Hex buff was initially introduced, and you had to think a bit about, okay, what can I actually do with this? Do I have a certain boss that I need to beat where I need a Hex buff? Then you would maybe go for it, but by now you have just so many champions that can apply a Hex buff that you have, or that you should have, that doesn't make sense anymore. So in this case, same rule. If it isn't an absolutely exceptional item that I could see in a broken set somewhere, then I'm gonna get rid of it. And this one, the gloves, I'll keep. Double crit rate, again, with a crit damage glove. That's kind of nice. That's something that I would definitely, or could potentially use. This one as well, so I have crit rate and I have the double hit into speed, so also a similar one, but I will never use that in an actual set, so the rest of this I can immediately get rid of. And, well, we're basically going to do the same thing for a lot of the sets that we have here. With a frozen set, for example, this is something that you could technically also try and use on a couple of your items. Maybe here I'm going to wait to upgrade this a few points to see if I get some quad hit into speed, for example. But over here I already know it's not going to happen. This one, not really too great either. So I'm going to keep maybe the best items that I have, just in case that at some point, you know, I'm going to get something. This one I'm going to upgrade with speed as well, but the other one I definitely don't need. Here, this is a pretty decent one. I don't really have any champion currently equipped in a frost set, but I'll keep a few of these just to make sure that if I ever need one, if they are the best, that I have like one set lying around that I could technically use. But that's honestly the only reason where this would make any sense for me. Outside of that, it's just not happening. So most of this we're just going to get straight up rid of. I'm not going to use that. And to be fair, if at any point in the game I would all of a sudden realize, oh my god, I need a frost set, I could also farm the rest of what I need. But I need space, and that's something to do here pretty much immediately. I leave the regeneration gear for now untouched. There's a couple of sets, as already explained in the game, that you kind of need a lot. Regeneration gear is one of them. You want to have it for a lot of your revivers, but also there are certain champions, like for example Altak, that can just like solo the ice golem if you have really nice regeneration gear. So I'm going to keep a lot of that. Should go over through it in a while too. But then we have something like here, the immunity gear. Same thing, haven't used immunity stuff in a long time. But then you look at these crit damage gloves here with speed and with a crit rate roll. So those I'm definitely still going to keep because they are great. So these are really, really good. And I can use them on a lot of champions in even broken sets. So once that you start filtering for it, that's kind of nice. I think earlier I actually like talked about a little bit. I already talked a bit about the lacking filter for items that don't have speed. So this is something that I would really like. I think I talked a little bit. Yeah, here you see all of my regeneration. Of my gear with Relentless. But again, this is stuff that I am reluctant to get rid of because I use it a fair bit. And I also want to re-roll a lot of these things first. And I don't want to bother guys with you that yet. But yeah, so this is pretty much the process of going through the items. We have this here as well when we're talking about Savage. Could go with Destroy gear. It's a little bit similar. It's one of those things that you can use. What's the boss? It's not Bommel. The Scarab, the big one. I have champions that do that baseline, essentially. So here we're basically going to do the same thing. I'm going to sell most of this and see if there's anything that really just completely knocks my socks off when I look at it. This is upgrade to 16, so I'm going to keep it. I'm going to keep just some items, 1 or 2, just to make sure, you know, that we have something. These I would probably upgrade first to see what we're getting. There's no speed as a subset here. There's no crit rate over here, so I'm probably going to get rid of that too. We have speed, crit damage. Maybe I'll keep that. Crit rate. Over there we have already crit rate items, so I don't need this. Here, crit rate as a substat with speed, so I'll keep that for now if I need it, but I need to get rid of a couple of things at least. This 16 is just not good enough to really maintain it. Again, this is stuff that was useful at some point in the game to me, or at least there was a chance that I would use it. It's not really the case right now, so I'm not going to go too much into detail, but we're going to get rid of another 8 items. So this shifts, so now I have 100 open, and I'm going to be blunt, this is not even enough. So that brings us to stuff like poison, and here we're going to do the same thing. I mean, you can see the process already. You can refine this a little bit more. You can go, for example, into filters and start going for things where you're just saying, okay, I want to have everything that has substats, where it has flat attack and flat defense. So why these items? Because essentially what you do here is these are items that have basically only flat stats. And that immediately makes it kind of bad. If you have a triple flat stat on your items, that means that these things aren't good. So even though these are 16 speed buffs, I'm never going to use this. I'm never going to use this Relentless item. The reason why I'm currently keeping it is because, again, I want to rework it first. This is one of the items that I usually rework. But over here, this is not going to do nothing for me when we're using the Mercurial stuff. This has crit rate. I might rework that. This is a bit newer with the Feral set. It's kind of similar. I might just throw rework in here. Still have to decide on this, but you could easily just starting to filter out like that. And then you throw out defense and you're saying, okay, we're selecting defense, but now we're throwing resistance in, right? And now you're having an item again where you're looking at the items that you're getting here, and it's pretty much obvious right away, this is not something that you're going to use. This does do nothing for me. It honestly doesn't. This is like blue magic item has, yes, 6-star speed, but what does it actually have if I want to get some Relentless gear in? I don't have any percentage HP. I don't have any percentage defense in here. Resistance didn't get any hits. Most of the champions I'm going to run with this are not going to rely on the crit damage, so this is not useful for me in any way, shape, or form. Same when we're looking at the Stalwart boots here, the Divine Speed boots. What am I going to do with this? Also nothing. Could reroll this, obviously. This would maybe be an option. Over here we have defense with a double hit into speed. It's a supersonic item, double hit into speed. I'm going to keep that for now. I'm going to keep the mythicals over here too. But besides that, I mean, this is more so of hoping that I don't need it. But if I needed an attack percentage chest, I might use this. It has still some mythical properties, so we're going to do that. And then we're going to do the same thing when we're changing the filter. We're going to get rid of the flat attack stuff, and now we're rolling the flat defense stuff in, and we're going to do the same thing. Just running through it, just look at it. It's all just flat stats, nothing percentage outside of that defense roll. That is not going to help me too much. So even on a speed boot, Do I keep it? I mean, it's a speed set. Maybe I'll keep that. But over here, never going to upgrade this. It's just not happening. HP the same. If it had speed as a sub-roll, maybe. With this one, you could still make the argument, hey, you're having a defense stat and you have resistance, and you have HP stat, but again, what kind of item is that? This is a crit damage chest. So what do I want to have when on a set that boosts my crit damage? I want to have more crit damage, I want to have speed, or I want to have crit rate. This is not just about sheer survivability. Where would you usually put an item on that has an HP percentage main stat and then a lot of like defense stats? A reviver, any kind of supporter. Do they need that crit damage that comes with a set bonus? Obviously not. So getting rid of that immediately. Taking a look at the possession gloves, they have crit rate at least. I'll keep them for now. Not great, but again, kind of helpful. Over here, when we're looking at Stone Skin, that's a little bit different. So over here, resistance makes a lot of sense, but I don't have anything else that would really benefit this. I don't have any speed, I don't have any HP percent, so we're not going to use that either. And when I look over at the chest plate, this is honestly also not all that great. So this is one way how you can actually start filtering through things as well. You're just filtering for certain amounts of flat stats. If you really want to go and get rid of even more gear, you can do the same thing by just saying, okay, now we're going into the double rolls when it has only 2 flat stats, and then we're going to check what else it has. In this case, for example, I have speed, so I could keep that. When we're looking over here, 2 hits into defense, 1 into crit rate. It's already upgraded, so I might keep that. But that's basically the way to get rid of gears. At this point, I got rid of like 100. So now I can just like simply jump into my storage over here, into my inbox, and start getting some of these. I have to obviously do the same thing then as well later on when we're talking about my accessories. So that's another problem that I'm running into here. But yeah, the idea being just get into the new gear and then filter for new and just repeat the same process. There's a couple that were automatically picked up that were supposed to be sold, so I have to do this on these as well. As you can see, it's not an item that I'm going to keep. But generally speaking, this is one way how you can start to get rid of some of the gear that you have. Obviously, always assuming that you already are in the late game and you're having a lot of decent stuff here. But yeah, this is pretty much what I'm now doing to at least get rid of some of the stuff that I have in my inbox and see what I can do. I would absolutely love if you could be a little bit more wasteful with your gear. I've seen people being extremely organized with theirs, where they only have top-notch level 16 gear for all kinds. I'm not on that level. Again, if you spend thousands and thousands of dollars into the game, and you're at the point where you've upgraded everything that is useful to you to 16, and it's really just a luxury problem, and you have, for example, on the chest side, 10 chests that have HP percent, 10 chests that have defense percent, that's great. Then you can be a little bit more selective. For me, it's always, okay, can I puzzle it together, yes or no? And I'm still running into trouble, as you see. But it's also a problem of me just being a little bit of a hoarder, let's be honest. So, with that being said, there's like one way to get rid of some of your gear. As you can see, even more relentless gear that I got. So I have tons to pick up. And it's always been one of my problems. It's just what it is. So I have to go through these two, or I'm immediately going to be full again at max. But this is going to give me a few more options now to equip some of the champions. And also, of course, the more of the 6-star gear I pick up for the newer sets, the easier it is for me to also get rid of the 5-star stuff that I've picked up in the process through Grim Forest and all of the other content that's in the game right now. But I was absolutely maxed out here, so I have to get rid of some of these things. And yeah, this is starting to look a little bit better. And then I can decide, okay, what do I actually use, what do I need, and what will I actually use in the future. Very likely a lot of the protection gear that I, for example, have is gonna go. Protection for now seems to be, at least from my perspective, mostly useful when I have a champion that is going to be fully equipped with protection, meaning 9 pieces. I have 2 of them right now. That's my Senna, and what's the other guy's face? I always forget his name. So where's my Senna? She was here a second. Yeah, so she's in fully protection set, so that you have the full bonus over here with their damage. Really nice for Chimera, and pretty much I use her in mostly anything against bosses, honestly. And she obviously works extremely well with Opardin, and he's also the one that I currently have in 9 pieces of protection. By the way, the main reason why a lot of these things are not fully upgraded yet is pretty simple. I'm still working on the Marius missions. So with the break that I took, I still have to break through this, and there's a couple, you know, ascend artifacts to level 6 of Ascension, so you'll see a lot of my gear that is not fully ascended yet. That's one of the main reasons why I'm finally on the last stretch of completing this, but yeah, one of the things that I'm currently doing is just waiting until I have this completely done before I go for the full ascension of all of these items. So that's kind of how I'm looking at it right now. And then once that I'm done with this, I can, you know, just stop putting my brain in. Because I ended up too many times in the past in a situation where I upgraded stuff, and then all of a sudden I realized there was a mission for it that I couldn't even complete immediately anymore. So that's the reason behind that. But yeah, so guys, that's basically it. So a little bit of a different video. I hope that it might have helped you too to try and get rid of some of your gear if you're starting to hit the max, and to help you get rid of stuff in general. Keep in mind there's a couple more items videos on this channel. First of all, a video on how to properly equip all of your champions. This is actually one that should be in the description of the video right now, so if you haven't seen that yet, would highly recommend to check it out. And there's also a few more to just like generally what you should get rid of, but I think there's a bit of an overlap. So if you are a little bit uncertain of what kind of items to equip for your champions and what items to keep, and you want to dive a little bit deeper into this, check out the video that is linked in the description. I promise you it's going to upgrade your raid journey very, very quickly and make your champions a lot stronger if you're not already confident that you know what to do with them. But yeah, bit of a longer video, bit of a different video. Thank you very much for watching, everybody, and I'll see you in the next one. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up button if you made it all the way to the end, and I'll see all of you in the next one, of course. Bye-bye.